How would an attack on Iraq affect the country's people? Joining me now to discuss that issue is Newsweek correspondent Lorraine, who is an Iraqi American still in the country. Lorraine, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
We hear a lot about this being a war that would be against Saddam Hussein. Do the people in Iraq, you believe, look at it that way, or do they believe it's a war against them?
Well, it's difficult to know what the people in Iraq think just because they can't really speak out about it. But I can tell you what Iraqi Americans are saying, and the news that they're getting from back home is that Iraqi people don't actually say either side is their great savior. Saddam has not been good to them, and the U.S. has not been good to them. The sanctions have caused a lot of misery. 5,000 Iraqi kids die a month, due to the sanctions. So really, they're sort of stuck between these two warring factions, and they're the ones really paying the price.
And the notion of the sanctions, and to the extent that the Iraqi people believe the U.S. is somewhat to blame, does that tend to disabuse us of the notion that U.S. soldiers will be welcomed with open arms?
Yeah, I mean, that's really difficult because I think it's a bittersweet thing for the Iraqi people. I'm sure that they don't want Saddam their ruler for good or even for now, but will the United States be any better to them? Because in the past they have not been. They have bombed, they have inflicted sanctions on them, so you have to ask, really, they're in between these two powers, and I don't know if they'll actually see the U.S. as some great saving power.
Lorraine, some months ago you wrote a very compelling piece about your personal reflections of having family in Iraq. There's got to be mixed emotions that flow through you at a time like this.
It's a really tough time for all Iraqi Americans. I have loved ones there. You're really concerned about their well-being, and I think in a war situation we tend to dehumanize the people there. But I know them as my cousin Salah. I know them as my Uncle Ibrahim. I know them as people, and it's really difficult when you're watching, where should we drop the bombs now? What should we do now? But it's like, well, wait a minute, that's the neighborhood where they shop, where they live. It's very difficult.
What do they think of Americans? I'm not talking about the administration, but Americans.
It's funny. The Iraqis, they love Americans. If you go over there as an American, even now, I know Americans who've just come back from there, they do really want to know a lot about America, a lot about you. They're grateful you're there. They want to tell you their story. There's not a lot of animosity towards Americans themselves. I think it's very much towards the American government.
All right, Lorraine, we'll have to end there. Thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
Coming up next in the Countdown, it's your Showdown Lowdown, including a parting shot about the showdown with Iraq from late-night comedy king Jay Leno. Plus the answer to tonight's Countdown question. We're asking how many tons of the raw nerve agent VX were unaccounted for when inspectors left Iraq in 1998. And if you have a question for the Countdown, drop us an email, countdown@msnbc.com.